solve for x. So the basic approach when we're solving equations that involve rational exponents, so powers that have an exponent that's a fraction, is to raise both sides to the reciprocal power of the exponent. That will essentially eliminate the exponent, and then we just solve for the variable. What does this mean? Well, if we take a look at A, we have x to the power of a half equals 5. So what we want to do here is we want to raise both sides to the reciprocal of the exponent. The exponent is a half. The reciprocal of a quotient is essentially the quotient turned upside down. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write it as x to the power of a half to the power of the reciprocal of that exponent. So I can write it as just 2, but just to be clear what happened, I'm going to write it as 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2, of course. Now, if I do this on the left-hand side, I need to do the same thing on the right-hand side. So I'm going to write 5 to the power of 2 over 1. All right. Now, let's clean this up a little bit. This here is the power of a power. We're going to be using the power of a power law, which means that that was the wrong thing, which means that we're going to be multiplying the exponents. So x to the power of a half times 2 over 1. That's the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm simply going to write 2 over 1 as 2. So 5 squared. On the left-hand side, I'll have x. So this here will equal 2 over 2, which is the same thing as 1. So essentially, it just says x to the power of 1, which is just x, equals to 5 squared is 25. So as I go from when I multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the exponent, I said initially that that will get rid of the exponent, and we can see that right over here, that at this point there is an exponent of 1, but it eliminates it and it allows us to solve it. Let's do B. Now we have x to the power of negative half equals to 5. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the exponent. So that is x to the power of a half times negative 2 over 1 equals 5 to the power of negative 2 over 1. This power here, we use the power of a power law, and we're going to be left with just x. Here, this is the same thing as 5 to the power of negative 2. Now, we never want to leave an answer with a negative exponent. So we're going to use the negative exponent law, and we're going to rewrite this as x equals 1 over 5 squared, which is the same thing as 1 over 25. See? Here we have x to the power of a third equals negative 5. We multiply both sides by the so we don't multiply, we raise both sides to the reciprocal of the rational exponent. So it's going to be 3 over 1 equals negative 5. Make sure you put brackets around the negative 5 to the power of 3 over 1. This leaves us with x equals, so negative 5 cubed, which is the same thing as negative 125. So it's negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5, 3 times. And then finally we have 4 times x to the power of negative 2/3 equals 16. So in this case, we have a numerical coefficient in front of the power. We need to get rid of that numerical coefficient. We can do that by dividing both sides by 4, which leaves us with x to the power of negative 2/3 equals to 4. Now we raise both sides to the reciprocal of the exponent. And this is going to be to the power of negative 3/2 equals 4 to the power of negative 3/2. On the left-hand side, we're just left with x. On the right-hand side, well, first of all, the exponent is negative, so let's deal with that first. So we need to use the negative exponent law, and the entire power is moved down into the denominator, like so. Now, so we don't want to provide our final answer with a negative exponent. We also don't want to provide our final answer with a rational exponent, so a fraction. Anytime you have a rational exponent, you can convert that to a radical. So this is going to be 1 over, and it's going to be a square root of 4 cubed. So square root of 4 is 2 cubed, which is the same thing as 1 over 8.